Since the inception of this channel, I feel like it's always been a little bit of a secret goal of mine to always include at least one book that I think you haven't heard of in every single recommendations video. However, as I was going through my favorite reads of 2025, I feel like I might be leaning a bit basic this year. I feel like in my time away from YouTube, I've still just been finding book recs the way that I've always been, which is just scouring Kindle, scouring Goodreads, looking on the internet, doing research, finding authors that are similar to other authors, and just looking up things myself and going to the bookstore and just always searching for things. I'm never really watching booktube or book talk on my own time to find recs because I feel like everybody tends to talk about the same books. As I was putting together this list for my favorite books of 2025, I just couldn't help but feel like they were books that I've seen a lot of this year. Like, I feel as though these are kind of the talked about books. So I'm crossing my fingers that there will still be at least one book in this video that you've either not read or not heard of. You're gonna have to let me know in a comment down below. I hope this isn't too basic. I promise I'm gonna have more niche book recs coming soon, so let me know what kind of videos you guys want to see for recommendations. But I do still want to share my favorites of last year. Even if some of these are more basic, they're still my favorites, so I'm excited to talk about them today. I'm gonna start with the one that I think most of you have probably read or at least heard of, and that is Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. Ali Hazelwood is one of those authors that I've known of literally for 5 years, but I did not get into her books until I believe I read Bride last year, and I absolutely loved Bride. That's a conversation for another day. Obsessed. But Deep End was one that I was like, okay, let me read this, I'll try it. And then I ended up like binging all of Ali Hazelwood's other books, so it kind of started a whole thing. But Deep End was still my favorite, and it was honestly probably my favorite of the year, even though I know that this one definitely had some mixed reviews. And I feel like people either loved this book or absolutely hated it, or went in expecting one thing and they didn't get what they expected. So let me tell you a little bit about the book. This book follows Scarlett, who's a junior in college and a professional diver, and Lucas, who goes to the same college and he's a professional swimmer. So they cross paths because Scarlett, she's always kind of had some unpacked trauma. She's going to therapy, and it's kind of made her unsure of herself sexually, and she's always kind of had this feeling in the back of her mind that she would be into BDSM, more so being like power dynamics and like sub-dom dynamics. And she confides in her friend about this, who is dating Lucas, the swimmer. They end up breaking up, and she kind of drops the bomb that like, oh wait, like Lucas is into that. I'm just not into it, but like you are. So maybe you guys should like hook up together. Like that would be cool. And they've been together for a long time. Their relationship has kind of run its course. So seemingly there's like no jealousy there. She's like, genuinely, go be with Lucas. You guys can have fun, explore together. And this kind of creates this dynamic where Lucas and Scarlett aren't really sure how to behave around each other. They're not sure if they should get into something like this, but you'll kind of see how the book unfolds and how their relationship unfolds as well. I really love this book. I feel like that description does not do it justice. I just really think you should read it. I was obsessed with these two characters. Lucas specifically, he's like the perfect book boyfriend. I absolutely adored him. So I really enjoyed it. I feel like some people were expecting maybe more with the BDSM stuff that Ali Hazelwood promised. I feel like some people also were like, this was nothing. So I'm really curious what you guys thought of the book if you did read it, because personally, I really enjoyed it, so I'm curious what you guys will think. My next favorite is called Revolve by Ball Cabra. This is the third book in the Off the Ice series, but it can be read as a standalone. I've read all of them. This was definitely my favorite though, and this is an ongoing series. This book follows Sierra and Dylan. Sierra is a figure skater and Dylan is a hockey player. Now, I'm gonna explain this book and you're gonna be like, Laura, that's Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. I promise it's not Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. It's actually better. It's actually better. So please, if you're like, I've read that book, read this one. So this follows Sierra. She gets injured. She does pairs in figure skating, gets injured. She ends up needing a new partner because her other partner abandons her, but she's having a lot of trauma with her injury, and she ends up having panic attacks almost every time she goes to the rink to practice. So she's just really struggling with this figure skating thing, but she obviously wants to get back into it. Dylan is a hockey player who's very mischievous, gets into some trouble and gets kicked off the team. For the time being, the only thing they're going to allow him to do is figure skating as Sierra's partner. Now, he's kind of this playboy, bad boy. That's kind of the archetype that we're given for him. But as soon as he's with Sierra, like, I love him. I love him so much. This character was so sweet, and seeing how he helps her through her trauma and they kind of work together, it was everything to me. I loved it. And like I said, I know this sounds like Icebreaker. It's like almost the same plot, but I promise the characters are just better. Like, I loved this book for the characters. So please read it. You don't have to read the whole series for this one. You can definitely just read this standalone, but I recommend all 3 of them. They're really good, and I think there's more to come. So highly, highly recommend. Okay, my next favorite of the year was The Prodigal Son by Sarah Kate. This is book 4 in the Good Brothers series. This is also like a series of standalones. However, I feel like they're a little bit more combined than most series that are like that. They kind of have a running theme through them, and it follows 4 brothers and their different stories. I recommend that you read all 4. You don't have to, but I do think that a lot of things get kind of wrapped up in this 4th book. So that's just my opinion, but it was definitely my favorite of the 4. I loved the whole series, but this was my favorite of the 4. This is an romance, and it follows Isaac and Jensen. Isaac is a closeted country music star who ran away from home, changed his name, totally just reinvented himself, and now he's a country music star. And then we have Jensen, who, this is gonna sound insane, but he is a preacher, and he's working in the church in Isaac's hometown, okay? So this combination of characters, I know it sounds crazy, but Jensen actually happens to be a big fan of Isaac, and he gets the chance to see him in one of his shows. They have this instant connection, they meet backstage, and this romance, it takes you on a wild ride. This book was definitely more than meets the surface. I mean, there's a lot of mental health rep in this book, and also just general self-discovery themes. I mean, I think that this story, on the surface, it sounds so like, what? Like a country music star and a preacher? Like, how is that real? But like, I swear it just works, and I loved this story so much. It's so near and dear to my heart. And like I said, the relationship dynamics may seem unconventional, but the bond between these two, it was just really beautiful. I loved this story, and it was an amazing conclusion for this 4-book series by Sarah Kate, who's like one of my favorite authors. So I definitely recommend it. Like I said, read the whole series, just read this one, do what you want, but I really, really loved it. This next book I'm so excited to talk about. I hope at least one of you have read it, because like low-key I need to like debrief with someone. It's called Irreversible. It's by Jennifer Hartman and Shelley St. Clair. Jennifer Hartman wrote a lot of really popular books, Lotus and Still Beating. 2 of my favorite books, by the way. She's the author of those. So this is like a very similar, she always has like a romance, but there's kind of like a sinister story going on that leads you to the romance, which is definitely this book. This book follows Everly and Isaac. Everly is a supermodel. Somebody breaks into her house and kidnaps her, okay? She gets kidnapped and she's put in this secluded room. And in said room, there's a wall, and she can always hear someone else on the other side of the wall. But whoever's on the other side of the wall ends up disappearing after a couple of days. However, she's the only one that's still been there for years. Somebody new comes in, she starts to talk to them, they end up being taken away. Then enter Isaac, okay? Isaac is a retired detective. He's trying to solve this case even though he's not supposed to be working on the case anymore. And in doing so, he gets abducted. Guess where he gets placed? In this other room opposite to Everly, okay? So they start talking between the wall, and Isaac starts putting the pieces together that this is this girl that's been missing for years, and together they start to kind of try and solve this case, or at least try and escape somehow. They're not very trusting of each other at the beginning. It's kind of enemies to lovers in that way, but it's not as intense because obviously just I feel like it's so bizarre to say that that would be enemies to lovers, but they're just not really feeling each other at first. Obviously, in a situation like this, you're really all that each other has, so they kind of have to form a bond based on that. But yeah, I don't want to say anything else because I feel like you just need to read this book. So if that piqued you at all, please just pick it up. If you haven't read Lotus and Still Beating, also, those are like my other 2 favorite books by this author. Unrelated because I've read them forever ago, but go read those. This reminds me a lot of Still Beating, but it was different enough that like I still enjoyed it. So take with that what you will, but I loved this book and it definitely kept me guessing. It had me on the edge of my seat. I'm pretty sure I read this in one sitting, so please go read it. My next favorite is called Unloved by Peyton Corinne. This is a part of the Undone series. It's book number 2. I believe there's going to be more. This book follows Ro and Freddie. Freddie is a hockey player and Ro is a student at the university where he's a hockey player. Ro is kind of like this hopeless romantic girl who's always just wanted to find love and kind of settled for it in her life, and it hasn't been exactly what she wanted, but she's willing to kind of take whatever. Her freshman year, she actually runs into Freddie at a party, and Freddie drunkenly kisses her. And on that night, Freddie ends up having kind of something crazy happen. So he totally forgets about this kiss after because he's just dealing with other stuff. Years later, Ro ends up being Freddie's tutor. Freddie is failing one of his classes and he's not going to be able to play hockey if he's failing. So Ro becomes his tutor. And guys, this relationship, it literally did something to me. They're so sweet. That's like all I can really think to say. They're sweet. They become really good friends and it's like a friends to lovers. I feel like often when you see like the hockey player frat bro type, it's never friends to lovers. Like he's never like this sweet boy and she's just kind of this girl that wants love. It's so cute. I was so obsessed with him. And then you have that element of like, he was her first kiss, but he doesn't remember. And she's like, does he remember? Does he not? I don't know. So she just kind of keeps it to herself. I want to reread this book. Like, that's how much I loved it. It was actually one of the first books I read of 2025. So it's still kind of like blurry enough that I could like reread it and it would still feel so fresh and new. But I loved this book. I also really loved the first book in this series, which I read, I believe, in 2024. So you can read both. You don't have to. They really don't fit together that much. So you can totally read them as standalones. But oh my God, I just loved this book and I fell for the characters so hard. I highly recommend. Next book on my list is One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune. This is the follow-up to Every Summer After. I absolutely love Carly Fortune. I know people have mixed feelings about her as an author. I know that people have said her books kind of all feel like they're the same book. Personally, I eat them up every time, but One Golden Summer was probably my favorite. I think I liked it even more than Every Summer After, which is becoming a show, if you didn't know. Maybe we should talk about that more. Let me know if that should be a video coming out this year. But anyway, One Golden Summer is the follow-up. It follows the brother of the main character from the first book. His name's Charlie, and it follows Alice, who is staying in Barry's Bay for the summer with her grandmother, and Charlie is staying across the lake at his lake house. Charlie just ends up being this charming neighbor that's kind of always running into Alice and keeping a watchful eye on her. And this story really explores Alice and her self-discovery and coming into her womanhood. I feel like she's described as being this character who, as a teenager, she was very like shy and timid. She went to the lake house one time during her adolescence and she kind of recalls it as being this time where she wished she could have put herself out there and done fun things. And she sees Charlie and his brother on the lake and she remembers that moment and she wishes that she had been in it instead of just watching. And she's a photographer, so that's kind of what her whole life has been watching these moments and capturing them. But being with Charlie and meeting him, it's like the first time that she actually feels seen by someone, which I just thought was so beautiful. I really loved their relationship and the way that it unfolded. I just also think Charlie is such a sweetie. I remember loving him in the first book, and I was so happy that he got his own story, and I really, really loved it. So super excited for the TV show to come out for Every Summer After, and hopefully they do continue it where One Golden Summer also like becomes a part of it if they do a season 2. I would recommend reading Every Summer After first, just so you can kind of get a feel for Charlie and how he is in that book, because I feel like it has a lot to do with where he ends up in One Golden Summer. So you've probably read it. Again, like that's one of the biggest books of the past couple of years. So like, trust, I believe you've already read that book. If you haven't though, check it out. Okay, and my last favorite book of 2025, this is again one that I feel like you've probably all read, but I'm gonna share it anyway. That is Rewind It Back by Liz Tomforte. This is the 5th and final book in the Windy City series, which you can see it's behind me. I love this series so much. I did not expect to read the 5th book and feel like it was my absolute favorite. And it was. I mean, I've loved Rio, who's the male main character. Throughout this whole series, he's featured, and I've always been waiting for him to have his book. But when I heard that it was going to be a second chance romance, I was like, I don't really love second chance romance. It's definitely not a genre that I gravitate towards, or a trope I gravitate towards, I should say. But I'm someone that can admit when I'm wrong, and I was so wrong. This book follows Hallie and Rio, who were childhood best friends turned lovers, okay? So sweet. You get to see kind of these flashback chapters where they're in their adolescence and they're falling in love. So, so cute. They're next door neighbors growing up. And so they become friends, then they become lovers. Then something happens and creates this insane fallout between the two of them where they just cut each other off completely, don't speak to each other again. 6 years later, they end up being reunited in a new city because they are somehow, again, neighbors, okay? So Hallie is an interior designer. She's staying in this house while she's designing the next door neighbor's house, which happens to be Rio's house, and he doesn't know, okay? So they're put in this position where it's like forced proximity. They've not been together for 6 years. They don't even like each other at this point because of all the fallout that happened when they were teenagers, but they're kind of forced to coexist and to do this project together. But you just see kind of how old habits die hard, how their relationship still under the surface, they've always still had this love for each other. And oh my God, you guys, like I just did not expect to love this story as much as I did. I promise it gets so, so good. And just the way that they are together once they kind of put their differences aside and get to talk it out and whatever. It's so good. I loved it so much. This was definitely my favorite of the series. I love all 5 of them, but I fell for this story so hard, and I loved how it's told in the alternating chapters where you see them from their childhood versus now. It was just great. I loved it. You guys are gonna have to leave me a comment letting me know what your favorite books of 2025 were. Did we have any of the same favorites? Were any of my favorites your least favorite? Like literally tell me anything. I want to know. Let me know if you're gonna read any of the ones from this video. Just anything, please talk to me. I would love to engage with you down there. But I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video and you found at least one new book to read and add to your 2026 TBR. I already have so many books this year that I'm looking forward to, but if there's anything that you're like, Laura, you need to read this, please let me know. I will definitely add it to my TBR. And I would also love to read some of you guys' favorites from 2025 and maybe make a video about that. So let me know. I would love to hear from you. But yeah, otherwise, I will see you guys very, very soon in a new video. You can follow me on all of my socials down below, and I will talk to you later. Love you.